Hi, morning, welcome back to the channel. So we're on his first proper ride, not proper ride, but first bit of gravelly ride after LEJOG. And down the beautiful Chesterfield Canal, look at that. Glorious today. It's only 7:30. It's absolutely stunning. And we thought we'd do a little video on reflections on LEJOG, didn't we, love?
Yeah.
So, there's Lisa, look. She's got a microphone. I know, we see that big rat there.
Pardon?
A big rat just crossed in front of us.
I can't see because I'm blinded. My glasses are...
So we thought now we've had a couple of weeks to reflect on it. Perhaps give people a few hints and tips. Lisa's got a top tip for route planning, haven't you, love?
Yeah, find yourself someone who does it all for you. I did nothing.
Lisa didn't know day to day where we were going, she just followed. So that's her top tip, get someone else to do all the planning.
I literally just followed on a bike and that was it.
You did have an input to some of the accommodation. So there you go, that's number one top tip. So from a planning point of view, I use Komoot. I use Komoot for all my rides, especially stuff that's gravel based. I just find it's a really good tool. So I'll do some little screen video and I'll show you how I go about planning a route, but it's really good because you can choose what you want to, what type of activity you want to do, whether it's hiking, road riding, general cycling, or gravel, or mountain bike. Yes, it's really good for that. Wow, look at the sun on there. That is absolutely beautiful. Something lovely about being out this early. You just get the best of the sort of weather. So yeah, Komoot, fantastic tool. I bought the premium at the start of this year because it gives you a fantastic multi-day planning. So you could plan your entire route, whether it be 500 miles, 1,000 miles, to whatever it is. Ooh, hang on a sec. And then you can split it up into multi-day. So it would, you can tell it how many days you want to do it in. So if, I don't know, 14 days, like we did for the jog, it breaks it up into what you think are manageable chunks, and then you just move the end point of one day and it's just the start of the next for you to the same place. So it's really good for that. Really good. Okay, so I just thought I'd show you how to get a route going in Komoot. So you've got two options. You can either find a route that someone else has done. I've got my own collection, which is on all our videos, and you can find that. Or we want to plan a route from Land's End. So you can either scroll down Land's End, filter, so you can tell it how far you want to do. You can tell it your type of activity, gravel, road cycling. So let's just say cycling. Stop going back there. So Land's End. So search this area and it'll show you all the routes that people have used and uploaded to Komoot from there. So you could pick one of them and say, yeah, that's what I want to do. Or you could say, well, I want to plan a new route. Now, can you see this purpley blue here? This is National Cycle Network. So that is a route that a lot of people will use for LEJOG. I think I did actually have planned to come down here, but it's so hilly if you go through Mousehole. You're better off just starting and going up the A30 if you're early. There's a gravel path there if you want to take that. So we want to start at Land's End, don't we? So you can start it wherever you want. I mean, they're footpaths, like the blacker footpaths. So let's say we want to start there. That's the start of day one. Do you know where your destination is? Now, if you know where your destination is for the day, you could put that on. However, it's going to plan a route between. So let's say, for example, let's use my example. We went up to, there we go, Splat. So we were staying at a campsite. Where is it? Somewhere around here. Let's say it's there. Let's say that's the campsite. Okay. You click on that. That's my destination for the day. So Komoot will plan you a route using as much cycle network, quiet roads as possible. Show you the gradient. What it might not show you is it's showing you it's Route 32 there, look. Now, generally, it will avoid busy roads unless you put road cycling. If you put road cycling, it will change. So watch. If I change that to road cycling, it changes the route. And you may find it's on dodgier roads. If you put cycling, it tends to pick more sedate routes. So, if at any point you want to check part of the route it's put you on, just click on it. And if there's a Google Street View available, you can open it, have a look round, see what your route is. And you go, yeah, that looks all right. It's a nice quiet road. Happy days. Okay, so worth checking various points of the route. You will. Well, that looks a bit naff, doesn't it? But it's taking you and avoiding busy roads. That's what I think it's doing. That's through Camborne. We went through Camborne. It was quite nice. Now you can see there, look, there's actually a cycle route there in purple. So if you want, you could drag it across. You could actually move that and say, well, I want to follow that. So if there's an area you wanted to see, so let's say you fancy stopping at Miss Muffin's Kitchen Cafe, include on the route, and it'll change your route for you to include Miss Muffin's Kitchen Cafe. Now, if you didn't want to take this route that it's diverted for you, click undo, go back, and what you can do is you could add there, and it's just going to move it for you anyway. So that there's gravel, I think. I think that's a bridleway, looking at that. Yes, in fact, we took that. It was lovely, up past an old mine. So it is tarmac that, which is unusual for a bridleway, but we took that and it was lovely. So any points on the route you can click on, and if there's a street view available, you can click on it. There isn't on that one because that tells me it's not a road, so that's probably a good place to take. So that there is just showing you what's coming in. I think we took that one as well, actually, through Camborne and out through Redruth. Yeah, so you've got loads of options there, right? So let's say you're happy with that route and that's your day one, right? We're going to save it and you need to give it a name. So we're going to call it LEJOG Day 1. I'll call it test so I can delete it later, okay? So that's my LEJOG Day 1 test, right? If you want to add that to a collection, hover over the dots, add to collection, and we're going to create LEJOG, and I'll just call it test, all right? Create a new collection, LEJOG test, create collection, done, it's added, okay? Now you need day 2, don't you? So you're going to go back to routes. You're going to plan a new one. And this is where you need to remember where you finished. So where do we finish? Splat. I think we finished. I think we're on this bend, weren't we? So that is the start of our day 2. So your destination, again, you've got 2 options. You can either say, right, I'll pick a destination and I know I want to stay at, I don't know, let's have a look. Again, this is all personal because you might not want to travel too far. So let's say you want to stay Oakhampton. We stayed just out of Oakhampton, actually. Where did we stay? Stayed at a campsite somewhere up here. So let's say you want that as your destination. So you can set that as your destination and it will plot a route for you. Just at the bottom there is your little elevation profile. It's going to be hilly. It's Devon and Cornwall. You can't get away from it. All right. So let's say you wanted to do that. That's your route. Oops. You're happy with that? You've gone through, you've tweaked, you've checked. Let's have a look. Yeah, lovely quiet lanes. That actually there, that there is the old airfield. RAF Davidstow. We rode through that. It was lovely, actually. They were lovely, quiet roads. So anyway, you're happy with that. That's your day 2. So yeah, I'm happy with day 2. You can come back and edit at any point. So LEJOG, day 2, test. I'm saving that. I want to add it to a collection. So we're going to add it to that collection. Okay, so you go through and you do that process for your whole route. Okay, so when you're happy with that, you need to go back and have a look at your collections. So collections personal, LEJOG test. Okay, so there you go. Look, day 1 and day 2. One starts day 1, day 2. You can even edit your itinerary. So we can click edit. You can change your cover if you want. You can make that a multi-day. It's really good. You can hide them so you don't want people to see them. So it's entirely up to you how you adjust that route. We found it brilliant. The good thing I liked about Komoot is that you can actually edit on the fly. So while you're on your phone, you can pull up part of the route and you can move it and tweak it. So can you see there? Look, I want to move the start point. I've decided my campsite is going to be somewhere else for the start of day 2. You don't forget you need to change day 1. So if you click on your start point, that's my start point because the campsite moved and it'll just move it. And it's as simple as that. So all you need to do is create each day, join them up into a collection, and you've got it there. I'm more than happy if you want to use my route. You can modify it, amend it, you can do whatever you want to it. Komoot is a fantastic tool for that. So that's just a brief overview of Komoot. It's fantastic. You do need premium to use the multi-day planning, but I highly recommend it. They normally do offers on it, so it's worth getting when it's on offer. So that is Komoot in a very brief nutshell.
Next tip, love, go on then.
Next tip.
Yeah.
Hang on, 2 secs. I'm putting my glasses on. Hang on.
I didn't realise.
Oh,
So you're putting them on when it's shaded and taking them off when it's sunny?
yeah, because when it's sunny it blinds me. Right, top tip. Forgot what I was going to say. I think it's about enjoying it rather than, yeah, there are some people that do it in however many days and smash out 100 miles a day.
5 to 7 to 10 now.
Yeah, 100 miles a day on a road bike. And they don't see it as not being an achievement if you don't do that. But what are you seeing of the country then? And what are you experiencing?
Not a lot, because you...
So my
Smashing
tip would be to take your time, stop and chat to people, stop and have a coffee, stop and have a cake, stop and see the sights. And it doesn't matter if it takes you 5 days, 14 days, a month, it doesn't matter.
Morning.
Morning.
There you go. One thing I would say about that is we kind of, at some point, we were so tired that it did feel like actually
We just got to get
we should have added a few more extra days in. And you know, our longest days were 83, 84
Morning.
83, 84 miles, which is probably quite long actually. But what we've learned from that was our first we've done 4 or 5 days before, but that was our first proper long tour. And I think what we've learned from that for the next one is we'd probably not book accommodation as much, because then you've got to get to a point. And we just sort of play it by ear a bit more, didn't we?
Yeah, but you can't do that on LEJOG really, because some places the
you just can't
very few and far between, aren't they?
Yeah, so it's a tricky one. Some people, I've watched videos of some people do it and they wild camp it, or they just totally play it by ear and you take your chances. I think the downside to that is potentially that you could end up, swap hands, you could end up paying over the odds for accommodation. So I suppose you take your chances and raise your money, don't you? You know, I think the cheapest accommodation we had. Hey up.
Morning.
I think the cheapest accommodation we had was that Knocknillan campsite, weren't it? Just outside of Inverness.
Yeah, which was lovely.
It was lovely, and it was £15 for the night for bike packers. So
And they had a kitchen with everything you could possibly need in there.
yeah, and charging points, kettle. So yeah, it was really good, and the sight on it was fantastic. But then some campsites, especially in Cornwall and Devon, were £12 per person. So you know, you've got to shop around, but again, it depends on your route and how far you want to go that day, and as to what's actually available. I mean, a lot of the campsites we booked were, oh yeah, we could squeeze you in, and we were the only ones on there camping. So yeah, it does make you wonder sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely awesome. Right, so my next top tip, post-ride hygiene. Massive on this. What did we go through? About half a tub of Sudocrem, didn't we?
Yeah.
One of the big ones. You've got to put it on. Something I learned a few years back when I did the North Coast 500 was post-ride hygiene. I got really bad saddle sores there, and about day 4, double shorted and no difference. So for the jog, I would say really the only issues we had were more sit bone, like a bruised feeling than anything. But in terms of rashes and sores and things, I know it's not particularly nice to talk about, but it's a big thing when you're doing long days and touring. So there was one day when we stayed at the Craskin and there was no showers, and highly recommend the Craskin, don't we?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Awesome place, you've got to stop there.
In the
Even
garden
if it's just
shed.
for a coffee. It was a horrible day, and the guy very kindly let us sleep in the kids' Wendy house, but he got us out of the wind and rain, and it was good actually. But I just used some cold water out of the bottle with some shower gel, had a good wash, dried off, and then Sudocrem, nice liberal amount of Sudocrem, and yeah, that worked for us. Morning.
Hi.
So highly recommend it. Some people will tell you, morning.
Morning.
Some people will tell you things like that they don't use them, they've got a nice leather saddle and they just wear cotton briefs and stuff like that, but I'm
not sure.
a bib short kind of guy. And yeah, chamois cream during the day, Sudocrem at night, very important. And other than that, keep yourself clean, I think.
I mean, if you can have like a
Yeah, harder if you're
cold
wild
bath
camping.
as well to soak your muscles.
Well, that's what you did, didn't it? But
Yeah.
that's when Lisa tore a muscle.
15 minutes in a cold bath, and it weren't too bad after that, really, was it? Oh, we
No.
iced it as well.
Yeah, we did ice it, yeah. And then another top tip for you. Let me swap the camera over. Just under Lisa's down tube there, look, the black bottle, that's a little tool bottle cage. And in there is all the spares, not the tubes, carry tubes separately, but all the spares you think you might need for a long tour. So, right, so I'm just going to go through, other than inner tubes, which we only carried 3 of for the jog. And I don't think I mentioned this, we had not one mechanical at all. I had to adjust the cable tension on Lisa's rear derailleur a couple of times, but nothing major. But honestly, we had nothing. And after Storm Floris, when we were riding up some of those National Cycle Network up in Scotland, and there was literally branches, twigs, debris, everything strewn around, and we were just riding through it. I kept thinking we'd get one, but we didn't. So amazing, really. Over 2,000 miles between us and not one issue. But we do carry spares. So inner tubes we carried 3, a couple of pumps because you never know what's going to happen. So we had a pump each, and then I carried a selection of spares that you think, why would you carry that? So I ride clipless, so I carried a spare cleat and bolts, because I have known people to lose bolts, so not a huge thing. Takes up a little bit of room, but definitely worth having. Small pot of oil. So I got this from a Sportive years ago, and I used the ceramic wet lube a long time ago, but that is perfect. 19.3 milliholes, so it's enough to carry to oil our chain for 2 weeks, and you can see how empty it is. So I mean, I think we used it probably half a dozen times, maybe a few more, so there's plenty there, so that'll keep you going for quite a while. I carried a small tub of Loctite, which I appear to have taken out because I don't really need it for regular riding, but just a small little pot of Loctite 242, so a fairly low strength, but definitely worth having. And I did need it when Lisa's pannier rack, one of the bolts came out, even though I Loctited them. I carry a selection of bolts of various sizes, so some M5s and some M4s, your bottle cage bolts, and most mounts on bicycles have them, look. So I've got some pan heads, some socket screw caps, so it's definitely worth having them. They don't weigh a lot, I don't know, 50 grams, but definitely worth having, and I actually needed a couple of them on the trip, so they're worth having. So also carried for each bike a spare rear mech hanger, so that's Lisa's. Bought that when I bought the bike or the frame from Alpkit. 12 quid. Definitely worth having, because if one of them goes, you're going to struggle. Cheap AliExpress pair of chain splitter. So if you've got a quick link, this is a little tool you need. Pops your quick link, job's a good one. Not big, not heavy, but definitely worth having. Quick links are supposed to be able to open by hand, but not from my experience, so I carry them. Also carry, and I don't think you get these little Tic Tac tubs in the UK, someone I know got it from Germany, but in there we had just a few spare quick links. Definitely worth carrying because they come in so handy. So if you've got quick links but your chain breaks in another place, those things are a really quick get out of jail free, but you need to make sure you've got a multi-tool that's got a chain breaker on it. That's important. We do carry one of them. A couple of self-adhesive patches, not expensive, but they're definitely worth carrying, and then add a bit of room in there, so I put a split pin in just in case we lost a brake pad securing bolt. Again, these are all things you might never need, but I know people that have ridden and lost a securing bolt, or they've not had a quick link, or a rear mech hanger's gone. I've had a mech hanger go before, and I was miles from home. So these are all things to think about, because wife's taxis aren't always nearby, especially if you're on a long tripping in the Highlands. So that's the other half of the frame for the Sonda, the Camino. So the through axle goes in that way. Unlikely you need it, but it came with the rear derailleur hanger. These things, AliExpress again, very cheap. So that's a little adapter that goes from Presta to Schrader. So if you've got Schrader valves, or Presta valves, sorry, which are the thin ones with a little screw top, if you've got them on, and your pump breaks, whatever, if you go to a petrol station, they normally have the things for pumping up car tyres. Now they're Schrader valves. So that's a little adapter that's got a little rubber O-ring on it, screws on top of yours, and then it allows you to use the valves in petrol stations. So I carry a couple of them, and they're so cheap, they're light as anything. AliExpress, they're about 2 quid, but it's definitely worth carrying. Also carry a few spare chain links, just in case, because you never know. What else we got? I forgot half of the stuff I packed myself. This little tool, this is a bit specialist. So this is designed, you can take a cassette off. So if you have a problem with a free hub or whatever, that, along with that, so you basically fit that, something similar to that, and then you turn the pedal and it undoes your lock ring. Never had to use it. It was about 10 quid, but it's there if you ever need it. And I've never needed to take a cassette off, but you never know. So what else we got? Yeah, we definitely use these. So when we got to our rest day at Lancaster, I checked the pads. And bear in mind, mine weren't brand new. I'd used mine since March. But I did change them because, as you can see, they were quite badly worn. There was probably enough, you know, that side don't look bad, but that side is right on the cusp of being usable again. So I changed them anyway. And the back ones on mine did fare a little bit better, look. They don't look too bad. But again, while we had a rest day and they were there, you know, I'm keeping them because, you know what, if I were out somewhere and I had 100 mile left, they'd probably do me. Lisa's again, I changed Lisa's and hers were probably worse than mine, look. So that was the back ones. And the front ones we didn't actually do. I took them out and checked them and they weren't bad and refitted them, but I did have spares just in case. So I think that is something everyone can change. That's so easy to do, either an Allen head or a Torx or a slotted screwdriver. I did have to go and buy a slotted screwdriver in Lancaster because I'd not got one, but I got a set of 4 for £1 and left the guy at the Airbnb 3 screwdrivers. But for what they cost, it's always worth having spares, because if your pads go, Next thing, decent set of tweezers, because if you get a thorn in there, some of them are so fine and they tend to break off if you try and do it with your fingers. So nice pair of tweezers just so you can grab them and get them out or push them out through the tyre. Really worth having them, really good thing and not expensive. What else? I carried a couple of them just in case we had to take wheels off anywhere, trains or in the back of the vans when we were transporting them, or if you're doing any, you know, you take a front wheel out, just chuck that in just in case. So they're not heavy, they do take up a bit of room, but definitely worth having. A couple of spare food bags, because you never know if you need to put something in there. So this was mine. Mine, luckily, the Tempest is a universal derailleur hanger. Cracking idea why someone's not done that before. So a lot of bikes now are coming with these UDHs, which is a ceramic thing, but it's brilliant because they're readily available and you've not got to, if you're on a tour and you go into a shop and you're like, oh, my mech hanger's snapped, they used to be quite specific to frames and some of them still are, but the UDH gets rid of that so that you've got a better chance of being able to find one. Brilliant. And it comes with skewering bolt and a little locking ring as well, so 12 quid. It's not worth not carrying them, because if something like that goes, it's game over, isn't it? And then the only other thing I've got in here, and I'm not sure if I can get them out. Oh, there we go. Some nitrile gloves. Now you might think, well, that's a bit of a weird thing to carry, but I tell you what, when it's peeing it down, or it's cold and windy, and you've got a puncture, take your cycling gloves off, pop a pair of them off, and all that dirt and grime that's on your bike is going on these and not your hands. And it will also help keep your hands a little bit warmer while you do the repair. So it's definitely worth carrying things like that. So other than that, we carried a multi-tool that had a chain splitter on it, a couple of pumps, a couple of spare tyre levers. So we had, I think, 4 tyre levers between us, and that was pretty much it, because that is it. You could carry a chain, and on some shorter trips we have carried chains, but for the jog we were like, you know what, my chain's fairly new, Lisa's chain went on at Christmas, and I thought we'll probably be alright. With a couple of spare links and a couple of quick links, I thought it's not going to be a major problem. But yeah, definitely worth carrying basic stuff that's not cost you a lot of amount of money, and you know what, it fits in there, so it's not like it's taking up a lot of room. I managed to get all that in there, so that's definitely worth having. Right, I thought I'd show you my multi-tool anyway. So this is a toe peak one. It's about 25 quid, which sounds a lot, but I tell you what, it's got a bit of everything on it. It's good, but it's not got a flat-headed screwdriver anyway, because I had to buy one of them from Lancaster, but it's really versatile. So first thing I'll show you, look, it's got a chain splitter. So this little bolt winds out, pop your chain in, wind the bolt in. Now you might think, well, hang on a minute, it's got an Allen key head. How are you supposed to wind that in when your Allen keys are on your multi-tool. Well this is no ordinary one. These little silver things on the side, look, sorry, the black things, these are tyre levers, and it's got a little Allen head in it, look. So you pop that off, pop it in there, and that winds in so you can break your chain. And it's even got a little, get it off, little thing there, look, that comes off for holding your two halves of the chain together. So yeah, really good. It's got various size Allen heads, torque heads, posi. It's got a posi drive, but it doesn't have a flathead. So yeah, so that is a multi-tool. Sorry, a tyre lever and an Allen key. And on this side, tyre lever and a spoke key. Two different sizes. Not sure what that loop's for. I don't think it's for anything, to be honest. And in here, under that one, that's a spoke nipple key as well, look. In here, look, you have a few little smaller Torx heads and this little thing there, which is an adapter, so that, not sure what that's for. Yes I do. So that slides over the 5mm Allen key to give you a bigger one. So if you've got some bigger bolts, that just gives you that extra size there if you need it. But yeah, this is a really good one, this. It's my second one I've had, because the first one I left at the side of the High Peak Trail when I was helping a youngster who'd snapped his chain. So I didn't realise till I got home, and it was nearly new as well. Never mind. So that's that one. And then we carry a couple of pumps. These are off Amazon. Quite a cheap little thing actually. But the reason I bought these ones, about £8, it comes with a little extending thing, so you can't just put that in your valve. And the reason I find this useful is because it's got both sizes. Look, so it's got Schrader and Presta. Screw it onto your valve, job's a good one. And that's because if you've got deep section rims, sometimes you can't get the pump onto the heads, whereas with that, it just allows you a little bit more access. Screw it on, and the thread of the valve will have, that's got an internal thread, so it screws onto your valve as well. So it's really good. So rather than trying to hold it on and pull a lever up, it does that, so it's really good. So they're what we use. I think it was about £8, and you know what, it's been a pretty decent, reliable little pump. It doesn't put a huge amount of air in at any one time, but it does the job. That's all you need. Stick to edges, it's a bit smoother. Which helps us with our trip, such as Dynamo front wheel. That was a godsend, I tell you. Because there was times when, I think there was a few times we camped 3 or 4 days straight, and if you can't get plugged in and charged, you need a Dynamo. So ours is a Son Deluxe 12 5V 3W, and you can see the connectors there, look. So there's the connectors, and I use that paired to a little adapter, which I'll show you in a bit. But yeah, that's great. It runs from about 7 kilometers an hour upwards, so it's great for charging things like a Garmin or a Wahoo or lights. It used to charge my old phone not bad, but my new phone needs a bit more power, so it tends not to charge it very well. But what you can do, if you've got something like a little lipstick type charger, you can charge these, which will charge them. So So what you can do is you can have the hub plugged into the input, and whatever you want to charge your phone plugged into the output, or your power bank perhaps, and they'll sort of pass through and charge your device rather than this. So that came in handy. We normally carry a couple of power banks as well. But yeah, really good for keeping the Garmin topped up and stuff. There was a few days where I just plugged it in for the last 3 or 4 hours and my Wahoo was fully charged by the time we get there. So I've just sprayed the bike with muck off cleaner. You leave that soak for a little bit, give it an agitate with a brush or toothbrush something, and it'll help you get the bike clean. But yeah, the Planet X, the titanium, is bearing up really well. I mean, these things is you can polish it up, but I mean, there's no marks on it or anything. It's bearing up really well, given, I mean, it's had some use on it. It's done some fair miles since I got it. Let me just show you this as well on the back wheel. Obviously we were fully loaded, so can you see there that the treads where the weight's been on it, look? It's probably easier if I show you there, look. So can you see, look, that's all nice and smooth now and worn down, whereas it was ridged.
Okay, so just one last thing I want to add just to wrap up the video is, when it comes to accommodation, book your key accommodations early. We start booking in January for things down in Devon and Cornwall, and particularly Scotland, the Highlands. Something we didn't factor in was time of year for events happening. So when we got to Edinburgh, the Fringe Festival was on, so we had to change his plans and go a bit further north into Dunfermline. And that was mainly because it wasn't because accommodation was hard to get hold of, it was because it was so expensive. A travel lodge was £250 a night in Edinburgh because the Fringe was on. We went to a Premier Inn at Dunfermline, which was another 20 miles on the day, and that was £150. Mental. So just try to get stuff booked as early as you can for key places. Places like the Craskin, the Highlands, there's not a lot up there. So if you're staying somewhere, get it booked as soon as you can. Logistics. We hired a vehicle, a van, from Chesterfield, near to home, down to Penzance. One way. It was fairly cheap. I say fairly, it was cheaper than getting the train, and it was less faff. So I think even with fuel, it was about 180 quid for one way. The trains would have been over 200, with I think it was 6 changes. And the problem when you book the trains is you book each part of the journey and then you have to book your bikes separately. It's a pain in the butt. And if one train's delayed, it has a knock-on effect for your whole journey, and you can be hours on the train. I think it took us about 8 and a bit hours to get down to Cornwall, which it is what it is, but we were in control of that. We weren't waiting on trains and relying on them to be there on time. At the other end, John Groats, we got the train back from Thurso. Now, Thurso is the second stop on the journey. It starts at Wick. They release the tickets 3 months in advance. So we booked ours middle to end of May. And we booked the 2 bike spaces. And when the train turned up at Thurso, there was 5 bikes already on it. And I thought, we've got no chance here. They're going to kick us off. Luckily, the conductor, she was lovely. She said, pop them in the disabled spot and we'll sort it if anyone needs to get on. And luckily, we were okay. But it did make me think, well, why do they stress that you have to book? Because there's only 2 spaces if people can just turn up and jump on anyway. It's a 4-hour journey, that, and it's lovely through the Highlands, and you see a lot of the places you've kind of ridden through. It's lovely. One thing to note on that is you cannot print tickets after Inverness. There is nowhere to print. Thurso Wick can't print tickets. And it does say on the ScotRail site, if you haven't got tickets, you could end up with an additional fee. There is, however, a ticket office at Thurso where, excuse me, there is a ticket office at Thurso where they will print them for you. We didn't realise this. Someone at the Craskin mentioned it, another stress, but luckily we got them printed. And I don't think she even checked. She just said, "Have you got your tickets for the train?" She didn't check the bike thing or anything. Yeah, and then once we got to Inverness, we'd hired a van, pre-booked, all the way back to Chesterfield. It was about 150 quid and 50 quid worth of diesel. Just because, again, the trains, I don't like having to rely on something that's unreliable. And it was more expensive, so why wouldn't you do that? So yeah, so that was the logistics and how we did it. So yeah, I hope that video has been informative for you. If you've got any more questions or anything, or you wondered how we did certain thing, whatever, fire a comment across and I'll answer you. Yeah, so thank you very much for watching. Hope you found it informative. See you later. Cheers.